Well, hello there, and welcome to an old man ranting about the Elder Scrolls series. This isn't a playthrough or a long play, it's just me talking about the games. But you will see some of my characters play in the background from all 5 games. What prompted this is that I finished Elder Scrolls Arena last year, so it was the 5th of the 5 games for me to play. And I understand that my perspective on the Elder Scrolls series is a bit different, but I know that it is not unique among old gamers. So, spoiler alert, I might not like the same games that you do. My perspective might be a bit different, but I will at least try to explain it. The first game that I actually played in the Elder Scrolls series was Elder Scrolls Morrowind, the third one. And I began play it soon after year 2000 or so. And I didn't finish the game then. To understand my feelings about Morrowind, you need to understand where I came from. And that starts all the way back into the 80s. Because I started out with adventure games, such as King's Quest and Police Quest. And I loved visual storytelling games that I could watch like a movie, and the way I could really immerse myself into a story with characters that I could meet and like. My first computer role-playing games was Ultima 1 and Pools of Radiance. Pools of Radiance I was a bit young for, I couldn't understand it at all, I couldn't even start the game. And Ultima 1, I didn't understand either, but at least I understand that I could build up my values in the game. So I finished, or I played it until I had maximum values in everything. So 9999 in hit points and 255 in every equipment that I could buy. I finished Ultima 1 way later. The first game that I actually finished in the role-playing genre was I Beholder on the Amiga. And oddly, that doesn't mean that I began to actually focus on the computer role-playing games then. That came a lot later. You see, I had began to play actually pen and paper role-playing games then, which was my favorite hobby. And I felt that computer role-playing games could not really offer that feeling of pen and paper role-playing games, because they were mostly focused on building up your stats and values, killing monsters, while real role-playing games were more focused about character and playing someone. Then in the end of the 90s came Baldur's Gate, and Baldur's Gate was the game that prompted me to leave the Amiga to buy a PC. And I played it along with Fallout. Those games finally offered a way to actually play a character with a morality, with a personality, with actual friends that you could meet and you could get to know, such as Imwan or Minsk. You could also finish quests in a different way, depending on your feelings about them. This new way of constructing role-playing games was the future to me, and for a while we were very spoiled with big titles like that, such as Icewind Dale, Baldur's Gate 2, Throne of Ball, Knights of the Old Republic, Divine Divinity, etc. So that is where Morrowind came in. I compared Morrowind naturally directly to those games. And what I found was a game that really don't have any characters at all that I could relate to. At best, you have some people to talk to in the first city. No one that you will remember more than maybe jokes. And a dialogue system that reminds me of Wikipedia. Morrowind was pretty. It had a unique world. But in the end of the 90s and beginning of 2000, we were very spoiled with huge game worlds like that. And it was very difficult for any game to really stand out when it came to a unique world. My approach to the game was that I wanted to play a cleric-style character. So I started to play with a blunt weapon. It didn't work well. It was not optimized for that kind of gameplay. I decided that I would play the Tribunal Temple questline, and I finished it. And when I came to the very end of the questline, the master left the room and walked out of the door and told me that I would take over now and be the new master. And I felt that very little in the game really reflected on that change. I was now the new master, but nothing in the world really reflected on that fact. The room that I inherited was located in such a way that it was inaccessible to use as a storage room even. So it didn't really help me in any way to be the temple master. There were no cutscenes. There were no changes in the way how people reacted to me. I couldn't feel any difference at all. So after that happened, I decided, okay, I had enough of Morrowind. This was the ending for me. So I left the game and I moved on. And I moved on to the Gothic series. The Gothic series represented what an open world role-playing game can be. It had the same formula as Baldur's Gate when it came to world construction, but it was now an open world experience. And this is exactly what I wanted. I loved the Gothic series so much that I made an English walkthrough of the first game, and I understand it's still one of the most well-spread English walkthroughs of the game online. And for a while, we had a lot of games still coming in. We had Gothic 2, we had Knights of the Republic 2, we had Icewind Dale 2, we had a lot of extra expansions for Neverwinter Nights. We had Vampire Bloodlines, and I think that Temple of Elemental Evil popped up around then as well. Then in 2006 came Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. At this time, the focus was very hard on making games for consoles, not PCs. And for a while, we had a very sharp decline of old classic PC genres that was considered no longer profitable. Elder Scrolls 4 played very well. They had very much optimized the way you play a first-person melee game. And it was very pretty. It looked fantastic for the time. And that sums up everything positive I have to say about Oblivion. Because for me, this game was worse than Morrowind. And if you follow me so far, you might understand why. Because just like Morrowind, I can barely remember any character that stood out to me. And those that I do remember do not stand out in a positive light. To make matters even worse, the way faces was constructed in Oblivion made everyone look like crap. Gameplay-wise, the game had this very weird leveling up system that you needed a walkthrough to plan out how to level up your character. And even if you did, the way that the rest of the world leveled up with you made leveling up pretty meaningless. The game was mostly procedurally generated in the dungeons, making every dungeon feel like you had been there before. The entire need to explore the game world was taken away. If you count the total Oman quests where you can finish the quest in multiple ways, there are very, very few. And if you look into the dialogue system, most of the dialogue is based on going up to a non-player character and then just click the word rumors, and that's it. And Oblivion was released in the same year as Gothic 3. Gothic 3 did everything right to me. It was buggy, yes, but it was a fantastic game compared to Oblivion. But I did finish Oblivion at least. I finished it at a completeness playthrough, so I did absolute everything in the game. I felt that, okay, if this is so damn popular in the community, I was at least going to play through to form my own informed opinion about it. And I think that the only quest that I felt was well written was the Assassin Guild. Then I did play the expansion, Shivering Isle, and Shivering Isle actually offers you an opportunity to decide how you want to finish the quest line, and that was unique to Oblivion, and it was also better written. But in the end, if I sum up everything, I absolutely hated Oblivion. And what I really hate about it is that it was genre defining for a few years after. So that promise I talked about in the end of the 90s died with Oblivion to me. This was also the reason that many feared the release of Fallout 3, because Bethesda on Fallout 3 would potentially be a disaster. In hindsight, I think that Fallout 3 was a better game than Oblivion. It wasn't as good as New Vegas though. And I actually liked Fallout 4 as well, except that you actually need a mod to remove that damn dialogue wheel. And I think we have Oblivion to blame for the dialogue wheels, which is one of the worst inventions of role-playing games of all time. So to me, the end of the decade was not a positive one. BioWare continued the disaster with the dialogue wheel, and they also streamlined all morality options down to either cyan or orange, where you had to stick with the same option over and over and over again to get the most benefit, and that was the morality system now. Let's not get into Dragon Age 2, but that's where I abandoned BioWare. So when Skyrim came out, I put it off for a while. I waited to 2017 before I decided, okay, I will now play Skyrim and I will play the main quest only, just to say that I have finished the game. And I did, and I actually liked it. I had to use a mod to make sure that I was able to keep friends with both the dragon and the faction I was working for though. But for a while I was satisfied, so I put the game down. And that was the end of the Elder Scrolls series for me. All the way up to the beginning of 2022, where I bought a VR set. I bought the VR set to work out. And I was looking for games that I wanted to play. And I realized that they had made a Skyrim VR game. And I thought that, okay, that might be just what I'm looking for. I will at least try to load up my old save game and continue to see what happens. And I did, and I began to play the subquests. And I realized that I have actually missed the good part about Skyrim. I didn't bother about the Radiant quests. They were not interesting to me, but I would say that I like most of the quests that you do in the cities. I like how the cities are different from one another. I like the way that the quest lines were constructed. There were a lot of non-player characters that I remember in a good way. And the expansions were really, really good as well. I played Skyrim completionist now, and I finished everything except for the Civil War quest line that I left because I preferred to keep the world that way. And I still pick it up at times just to play mods. And another positive thing I would say about Skyrim is that they actually have a really good leveling up system. It's simple. It do what's intended. You do things, you get better at it. And you have even the option to sacrifice your skill trees in order to become legendary in them. And that is a good addition if you keep playing right long after you have finished the rest of the quest. So I wouldn't say that I'm the old guy who just rip on everything that is new. That is not the case. To the opposite, I prefer the new one. Because Skyrim offered to me what I expected out of Morrowind all the way back. But I'm not done with the video yet. Because since I now finished Skyrim, I decided that it's now time to go back. And I picked up Daggerfall Unity. And I decided, okay, I will finish this game. I will do the main quest only though. And I used a walkthrough actually. I used a lot of mods just to make the game prettier. I was not a fan of Daggerfall though. I will say that I have never really been a fan of procedure generated games. I know that I tried to get into Elite Frontier back in the Amiga days, but I didn't really appreciate that way of designing games. But I was happy to at least finish the game. So what happened now is that I decided, okay, I will now go back to Morrowind. And I will complete Morrowind, just the main quest at least, and see a bit more if my perspective is different today than it was back then. And I finished Morrowind. I finished both of the expansions. And I had a really good time. First of all, the game is unique. It is a very unique setting. I think that we were spoiled in the end of the 90s with a lot of very advanced fantasy worlds. But nowadays, Morrowind really stands out with how unique the world is. There were also a couple of non-player characters that I do remember, possibly. Primarily the guy that helps you in the main quest because he's really funny. The guy without a shirt. And I do appreciate the dialogue with the main bad guy in the end. And the Tribunal expansion it stood out to me because you had a lot of dialogue with religions there. And that was an interesting philosophical quest. At least you had a form of companion that you could recruit in Tribunal, though. I still don't think that you had good companions in Morrowind. There are some mods now with that kind of content, but I had to rate the game based on what it was when it was released. So, I finished Morrowind now. I didn't finish the side quests, but I might get into those later. In the end, I think that my criticism about the social realm in Morrowind still remains. And I also like to point out that the leveling system was already weird back in Morrowind. But overall, my impression of the game have improved a lot. And on that note, I could finish the video here. But you know what's coming. In the around the end of the summer, I decided that, okay, time to pick up Elder Scrolls Arena. I was actually waiting for Open Arena to arrive, which is a conversion of the game with a new engine. But they took so long to fix it that I decided that, okay, let's play the DOS version. So I began playing it. I played each map of the game separately. I played it with a walkthrough to get through the game so quickly I could. And I played it with about one level at a day. That was what I could handle. And, well, Arena is a really bad game. It has not aged well at all. So at least I have finished Arena now. And that means that I finished all 5. So if I look back to the games now, I would rate Skyrim VR the best experience that I had with them. That I know that makes me different from a lot of people, but now I have explained to you, you might understand why. I have quite fun pick up some modded quest lines, and I like to just sit down with the game at times, just go around the VR world. That is a huge part of why I like it. My opinion about Morrowind have improved a lot. I can now look back to it and say that Morrowind is the game that I actually wish to sit down with and do a completionist playthrough to finish the rest of the quests in the game. The new mod that have every character voice acted really makes a huge difference to the game. And other mods like companion mods make the game into more of the kind of game that I wish to play. And in retrospective, the game world in Morrowind is unique. It is a really unique game. I think that we were well spoiled in the 80s, 90s with unique fantasy worlds. I think that might led me to not really appreciate Morrowind that much back in the early 2000s. Number 3 on my list, I guess I would have to place. It's super hard for me because really I don't really appreciate any of the last 3. But I think I would have to place Oblivion, and I would have to insist that if you like to play it, you need a face mod. I don't know if there are any other mods that improve the quests that you encountered in Oblivion in any way, but I would probably, if I played it again, I would heavily look into ways to fix the quests, improve the dialogue with non-player characters, maybe add some companion mods or anything just to make the game more enjoyable for me, especially on the social run. But I have finished Oblivion, everything in it, in a real completionist playthrough. So that means that I have actually no real reason to go back to Oblivion because I prefer to play games that I haven't played before. And if I look to modded quest lines, I think I prefer to play them in Skyrim. So after Oblivion, I think I would have to play Daggerfall, and that's mostly thanks to Arena being a really crap game. Daggerfall is right now pretty. It have a very nice modding community that really improved how the visuals look. I did play the main quest only. I did not look into the quest or the factions quests, but I think that Daggerfall is not really the kind of game that I would like. I'm not really impressed by procedurally generated content, and Daggerfall really don't have the kind of visual storytelling, morality options, different way to finish quests, etc. that makes me invested in a game. So I will probably not go into Daggerfall again. And that leaves Arena at the last. I think that Arena was, even at this time when it was first released, I don't think it made much of an impact. It really represents how the philosophy about procedurally generated games back then were. And I think that I was not sucked into that promise even back then. I did not appreciate procedurally generated content. And I think that Arena was now not really a fun game to play, but at least I finished it. If I do go back to Arena, I would probably investigate the Daedric quests. And that's about it. So that was my summary of the entire Elder Scrolls series. I don't know if this is the kind of videos that I should make on this channel. I will go back to do more long plays, but if I am inspired to make another video like this, I will put it up. So thank you for listening, and feel free to make comments about what I had to say. I see you in another video. Bye for now.